And this is just an amazing event. I've learned so much with the speakers of Kendria, our panel, Randy, just so much good energy in the room, the partners, Ruizco, and the sponsors. This is so unique. I've traveled to conferences throughout the country, and to have a first-class conference like this that is literally free is like unheard of. Like this, give you all a round of applause. This is absolutely amazing. And speaking of amazing events, one event I love every so often are the Summer Olympics. So raise your hand if you watched any part of the Summer Olympics last year when it was in Paris. Olympics are always fun to watch. Actually, this February will be the Winter Olympics. But I want to rewind the clock back to 2004 Summer Olympics in Athens, Greece. And this guy, not me, but this guy his name's Matt Emmons. And you see, Matt is the world's top rifle shooter. He's in the 50-meter, three-position rifle competition. And everybody knows that Matt is going to win this competition because he's literally head and shoulders above everybody else. In this competition, you start off shooting on your stomach, then you shoot on your knees, and then you shoot standing up. Now, you're shooting 50 meters away. So that would be like going to Jerry Jones' world up the road here. You're at the 50-yard line. The target is somewhere in the end zone. Now, the target is the size of a dollar bill. So you have to be so precise that a heartbeat can throw off your shot. Some people will say that this is the most mental sport in all of the Olympics. It's in the final round. Matt Emmons has one shot left. He has so much of a lead, he just needs to put a shot on the board, and he's got it won. He doesn't even need a bullseye, and he knows it. He's feeling pretty good. He goes up, fires, bullseye, baby. Matt Emmons is feeling really good. He's locked up the gold medal. He looks to the leaderboard, and his name's not in first anymore. It's not in second. It's not in third. Falls down to 8th place. And Matt's like, what? I got a bullseye. Like, what do you mean? He looks back, and he realizes he fired at the wrong target. It's possible to be successful, but in the things that don't matter. Sometimes failure looks like succeeding at the wrong targets. So how do we make sure, how does Cedar Hill make sure that we're firing at the things that matter? Because it's easy to get tunnel vision in life when there's a lot going on. And Matt Emmons said normally he takes a couple seconds to make sure he's aligned right, but he was just caught in the moment, rightfully so, a lot of emotions, and he didn't take a couple seconds to pause to look at the big picture. There's a lot of things that we can get distracted from. Economically, things feel very unstable. Politically, they're completely unpredictable. Technology is developing at a pace that you feel like you're more and more behind by the day. It's hard to keep up. At best, you're 10 steps behind at best. So how do we take time to make sure we're aiming at the things that matter? I think what we focused on so far with innovation, huge, people. Now we're going to talk about influence. And I think to really harness the power of influence, leaders need to double down on people and innovation. It's all three. Innovation, influence is harnessing the power of people and innovation. Now, when you think innovation, you think of new technologies, and rightfully so. But innovation is also a new way of looking at problems. So I want to put up a picture here. You've probably seen this place. It's DFW, the 4th busiest airport in America last year. I mean, it's amazing that you have this in your backyard, that you can get like anywhere in the world. Like you build 1 mile of highway and you can go 1 mile, but you build 1 mile of runway, you can go anywhere in the world. You know, it's really amazing that you have this on your doorstep. And when you fly out of DFW, you might notice sometimes that you might be taking off a different direction one day, and then another day you're taking off the opposite direction. And that's not because air traffic control was like, I wonder what view we want to give passengers today. No, it's strategy. An airplane, this blows my mind. An airplane uses less fuel when it takes off against the wind than with the wind. That you can have a huge international jumbo jet engine airplane, and it will use less fuel when it takes off against the wind than with the wind. It's because the headwinds, the challenges aren't bringing the airplane down, they're lifting it higher. And that when you have a good engine in your life, something that you could dial up, some power-ups, you can turn the headwinds, the challenges, into moments of lift. So when there's a lot of things going on, a lot of challenges, how do we in this room, how does Cedar Hill approach it that, hey, these challenges, yeah, these are headwinds, but I want to use this to lift us higher, to lift our people higher, to lift our businesses higher, and not drag us down. To do that, we really have to be hyper-focused on what are the things that truly matter. And what we're going to go over today are 5 power-ups. Certainly there's more. We could go on and on, but I want to give you 5 power-ups that I think can apply to you and your business and yourself personally as a leader that can really level up your leadership game and at the same time will also level up your business. Now, there are going to be some, at the end of this presentation, there will be a QR code or a website where you can download the slides, download the notes, so there's no pressure to try to keep up with everything. And there'll be a one-pager that you can take with you as well. But before we get started, I know it's been a big morning. We're going to take 2 minutes to do a quick meditation exercise. So if you can close your eyes, there's going to be some background music, some prompts. We'll do a quick meditation, and then we'll jump into our first power-up.
To start out, I want us to focus on breathing. Breathing in, allowing the air to fully fill up our lungs. And breathing out and fully releasing that air. Now I want you to think about all the stress and mental fatigue and all the things weighing on your mind that you brought into this moment. I want you to picture it being like a heavy backpack that you've been lugging around. But now I want you to think about what it would feel like to take off that backpack and that feeling of freedom. I want you to channel what that would feel like to take the weight off your back. Now I want you to picture, where do you find the most peace at? Is it by the beach? By a river? In the mountains? In a forest? I want you to picture yourself in the most peaceful place for you. And lastly, I want you to hold on to this feeling of your mind being fully relieved of all the stresses in your life and your body being at total relaxation, and that your mind and body have an overwhelming feeling of peace in this moment.
Okay, you can open your eyes, or you can wake up. It's okay if you took a quick power nap. It's been a long day. It's okay. So we're going through 5 power-ups that we can turn the headwinds, the challenges, into moments of lift. 5 things that are targets worth aiming for. First power-up is the power of the journey. You might recognize this person. This person, Robin Roberts, one of the co-anchors of Good Morning America. She was the first black female sports journalist at ESPN. She's a true trailblazer and inspirational icon in every way. When I was in college, I started in video production, and I thought for a time I wanted to work for Good Morning America behind the scenes. So I DM'd somebody on LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, can I just come to New York City to shadow a production of Good Morning America? And somehow they said yes. So I went up, and I was able to meet Robin. I don't know what I'm wearing. I'm wearing a raincoat inside a studio. Just a very interesting time in young Nolan's life. But, I go up there and I'm seeing a production and I'm in the control room and there's all these TVs. People in the room, they all have specific roles. There's one person who's watching a TV on the Today Show. One of those screens is the Today Show. So while they're doing Good Morning America, they're watching the Today Show. I'm like, that's weird. It's because it's such an intense rivalry between the Good Morning America and the Today Show. And the reason for that is it deals with people's habits. So if you grew up watching the Today Show or that's part of your morning routine, something has to be going really wrong for you to switch that channel and disrupt your habit. And for 16 straight years, Good Morning America was coming in second place to the Today Show. And when you're Robin Roberts and you're waking up at 3 a.m. every day and you're constantly in second place, that's tough. But they were chipping away, making small gains week over week, and eventually in April of 2012, they find out, this crew, that they have finally beat the Today Show. They're finally the number one rated morning show in America. ABC News rents out to this rooftop in Manhattan to celebrate this monumental achievement. And they're all on this rooftop. You can imagine Robin Roberts would be pretty happy. But earlier that same day, she found out that she'd been diagnosed with MDS, severe blood cancer disorder, had 1 to 2 years to live without an effective treatment. She got that call that same day. She hadn't told anybody yet, so she's up on this rooftop in Manhattan celebrating this monumental achievement and at the same time having a mix of emotions. And she said this, she said, "I'm so glad I didn't save all my joy for the destination because I would have missed the journey along the way." Here's how she says it in her words.
We have an idea how we're going to feel once we land that big venture, once we start that company, once we get married, once we have children, once. And you realize that the destination is not what it's about, it's the journey. If you don't take the time to enjoy the journey. Life is a journey, it's not a destination. There are no mistakes, there's chances we've taken. Lay down your regrets because all we have is now. Enjoy the journey.
You all that are, business owners or leaders, you should have goals. You should have dreams. Those things are really important. But if you're saving all your joy and happiness on achieving and checking the box on these goals and dreams, that's incredibly risky. Like, how do you take joy in the journey today, moment by moment? That the destination is the journey. I'm not saving for me to feel accomplished before I have joy in today. Neil Pastrika, in his book called The Happiness Equation, he was saying how society is kind of wrapped around this model where it says, hey, you do great work, that's going to lead to success, and that will lead to joy. But it's completely backwards. Joy isn't an output, it's an input. If we start with joy first, that will motivate us to do great work. And then that will motivate to success in however you define it. So how do we build joy into the journey? And that brings us to our second power up, the power of building peaks. I want you to pretend you're in this magical land. And this magical land has aisles and aisles of just about anything you can imagine. This magical land is Target. Or Target, depending how you pronounce it. So you're in Target. You come across your friend Micah and Colleen in one of the aisles, and you saw on Instagram recently, because they were doing a reel, because they saw that panel just ahead, and they're like, I need to do more reels. They go to Paris, they do a reel, you see it, you see them in Target, and you ask them, Mike and Colleen, how was your trip to Paris? You know what they're going to say. Oh, it was great. What a dreamy city. You should go. Let's rewind the tape. Let's go back to when Mike and Colleen were going on their trip to Paris. So they start off, they go to the airport, they didn't realize that their ticket did not come with free checked bags, so they pay $75 per person, they're $150 in the hole, and the trip hasn't even started yet. They look at their boarding pass, it does not have TSA pre-check on it, they have to get on a normal line, and then they barely make it to their gate in time, but it's a red-eye flight, and the planes are super, super tight, they get absolutely no sleep, they get to the airport, everything's in French, they don't know one French word, they need to find the metro, they finally find the metro, they look at the map, they have no clue where their hotel is based on this map, they find the train, but they get on the wrong train, they finally get on the right train, they get get to the street, and there's trash everywhere. This is not the clean Paris they thought it was going to be. They get to the hotel, and it's really, really tight. There's only room for one person with their luggage at a time to go to the hotel room. They get to the hotel room. They're like, okay, let's just go to the Eiffel Tower. We need a win. We're going to the Eiffel Tower. There is not a square inch to sit down. They're finally like, let's just get something to eat. But they're really small paper metro tickets in Paris. They misplace it. They have to get a new one. They get to a Parisian restaurant, a little bit too Parisian because they have no clue what they're ordering. They really don't like the meal. They're like, let's just go to the Louvre. They wait in a really long line to go to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa, which is honestly pretty underwhelming. So the question is, why do Micah and Colleen say it was a great trip when we just went minute by minute for the first 12 hours and it was subpar at best? Is it because they want to feel good about all the money they spent? Maybe a little bit. No, it's because they think of 3 moments when you ask them how's their trip. They think of this one meal that they knew what they were ordering. They're outside, people watching for hours, a slight breeze in the air. They think of this park, people playing chess, checkers, the gardens, Eiffel Tower in the distance. Time felt like it was standing still. They think of the top of every hour, how the Eiffel Tower would sparkle for 5 minutes. They think of the moments and not the minutes. Think about your own trips. You go on a trip to New York City, you're going to see some things you wish you didn't see. You're going to smell some things you wish you didn't smell. But you're going to see this awesome Broadway show, and you're going to be like, this is an amazing trip. This was incredible. When we're traveling, we grade things by the moments and not the minutes. But when we're living our lives, we flip it. We grade by the minutes instead of by the moments. If we're honest with ourselves, a lot of problems that we're faced with, both personally and professionally with our jobs, we're not able to fix. What we can do is influence what are the peaks that we can build. So like for me, I wake up every morning a little bit, 15 minutes earlier, I do a walk just to get my mind in the right frame of mind. This morning I walked Hillside Village. It was an amazing place. It really felt like a town square there. It had such a cool feel. That's a peak that I build in my day. Or maybe for you, it's like, hey, I grew up playing tennis. I want to join a tennis club on Wednesday night. Or I'm going to pick my kid up from school on Friday, and it's going to be Ice Cream Friday. Or maybe at your job, you take 2 minutes every Friday, and you write a handwritten note to one of your teammates, and be like, you're doing a great job. I see you. That will be something that they will cherish, a handwritten note for the rest of the week, the month, maybe the year. It lifts them up, and it lifts you up. Or maybe you start off a team meeting, just kind of giving high fives and recognizing other people, or letting your teammates recognize other people. What can you do to build peaks in your own life and peaks for your staff and your teammates as well? Now, there's a lot of things that can cause conflict, like Kendra was saying, that can throw us off, sometimes big and small. I love this commercial.
Let's get started. Kenny?
At 7, I'm going to throw your newspaper into the bushes.
Can you make it 7:30 when the sprinklers come on?
Done.
Ned?
At 10:45, I'll let you know that a computer virus totally wiped out your hard drive.
Terrific. Janine?
On your way to the client presentation, you're going to blow a tire and have to walk across town to get there.
Will it be raining?
Hard.
Great. Becky, anything to add? You're still going to be giving me the silent treatment for no apparent reason. Awesome. Good thing I had my orange juice.
Take on the day with the natural goodness of 100% pure Florida orange juice.
I wish orange juice worked that way. If it did, we are set because they had so much orange juice at brunch today. But it doesn't work that way for me. Maybe it's because I'm buying the off-brand and not the real stuff. But I love the mindset of that dad. It's like, hey, you know what? Stuff's going to not go my way today, but bring it on. And that brings us to our third power up, the power of day-tight compartments. You might recognize this ship. If you don't, you'll definitely recognize this. Leonardo DiCaprio looks 12 years old in that movie. What the heck? Titanic is one of the biggest blockbusters of all time. It came out in 1997. It was the highest grossing movie until the year 2009. Still to this day, it's in the top 10. Some rankings have it in the top 5 for highest grossing movies. Everybody knows the story that this ship that was supposed to be indestructible on its maiden voyage hits an iceberg and sinks to the bottom of the ocean. How does that happen? Well, I bet you didn't think you were going to look at Titanic blueprints this morning, but here we are, baby. So there were supposed to be watertight compartments, and you can see in red, the thought there was that if one was impacted, it would be okay, because there's watertight compartments, it wouldn't sink the whole ship. In an unfathomable way, the ship designers did not put lids on the watertight compartments. So when the iceberg hit, it filled up one compartment, spilled over to the next one, spilled over to the next one, and the boat splits in two. Somehow there's not enough room on the raft for both Jack and Rose, but I'm over it. I digress. We see this as a blunder. Like, how dumb can the engineers be? But if we're honest, this happens to us all the time. Look at our week. We had an iceberg on Monday. The rest of the week is flooded. It's over. Or somebody sends you a spicy email at 9:30 in the morning, just slam the laptop shut. Or a customer walks in, really ticks you off, and you just want to lock the doors and put, we're closed today. Sometimes it's just the little things. So what can we do to build a day-tight compartment? There are some bad days out there. I don't want to say there's no bad days. You don't have to put on rose-colored glasses. There are bad days out there. But if we're honest with ourselves, I think many times we don't have bad days, just bad moments that we choose to take with us all day long. So when a bad moment happens, how do we put a lid on it? Maybe it's, hey, I need to get outside and get some fresh air. Maybe I need to do my own 2-minute meditation. Maybe I need to talk to a friend or phone a friend for 5 minutes. Maybe there's a Spotify playlist or an Apple Music playlist. I can just pop in and just listen to a song. Or maybe I need to do some breathing exercises. What can you do to put a lid on the day to prevent one bad moment from wrecking your day, wrecking your week, and wrecking your month? And that leads us to the fourth power up, the power of pressing pause. I love this quote by Julia Cameron. She says, the capacity for delight is the gift of paying attention. This guy, his name is Josh Bell. He's the world's top violinist. This is what Josh sounds like. Pretty good. I need to put Josh Bell on when I need to get to sleep sometimes. Just like a calming presence, amazing violinist, the world's best. He's given a sold-out concert in Boston at this beautiful performing arts theater. The average ticket was over $100 a seat. Standing ovation, great crowd. The Washington Post gets an idea. 2 days later, they bring Josh down to where I live, Washington, D.C., and they set him up inside this metro station. And this metro station is a station that I pass when I'm in town on a daily basis. They put him in a ball cap, very incognito. He's next to a trash can, and they have cameras around him, the reporters in the distance, and they just monitor. This is somebody that had a standing ovation 2 days prior. What happens when people are on their morning commute? Here are the stats. He played for 43 minutes. Over 1,100 people walked past. Does anybody want to guess how many people stopped? Close. 7. Most all of them were children. The author said that he earned $32. Now, Josh had a pretty good outlook. He was like, you know what? I was on pace for over $50 an hour. It's not terrible. Certainly a far cry from what he was making. $100 a ticket just 48 hours prior. The article goes on and says, every single time a child walked past, he or she tried to stop and watch. And every single time, a parent scooted the kid away. I think a lot of times we raise kids trying to get them to learn from us and act more like adults. Maybe we should take notes from them to reignite the kid inside of all of us. Now, these people are on their morning commute. They didn't have time to be like, okay, we're just going to sit down. We're just going to take in a 2-hour show. And I'm going to tell my boss I'm going to be late. Sorry. No. But could they have taken 10 seconds? Maybe they didn't have to break their stride, but just be like, this is amazing. This happens to me a lot. I'm going home from work. There could be a beautiful sunset in the distance, but I'm so preoccupied with what happened during the day, I can't even recognize the beauty around me. Or you're rushing to get your kid to softball practice or baseball practice, trying to get them fed and changed. And you have to remind yourself, like, actually, these days are numbered. Like, this is something to cherish. Your kid's going to go play with friends. I want to take out my lawn chair and watch them play. Like, stressful, yes, but awesome, also yes. What can we do? Again, it's the panel before us. They're talking about the power of storytelling. What's the stories that we're telling ourselves? This is one of the last sentences in the article, and it has deeply impacted me. It says, if we do not have a moment to stop and listen to one of the best musicians in the world playing the best music ever written, how many other things are we missing? How many other things are we missing? So the question is, what can we do as leaders here in Cedar Hill? What are things that we can do to press pause? And I'll give you some ideas. One would be literally to kind of press pause and observe. Obviously, everybody has different types of businesses, but maybe you're just kind of looking around. If you're a store owner or you have a physical shop, maybe you take 30 seconds, a minute, to just recognize, oh, do I hear people laughing in the store? Do I see a team member connecting with a customer or a team member connecting with one another? Maybe one of your coworkers is celebrating a big win. Like, what are the things happening all around us? John Gordon once said, we don't get burned out because of what we do. We get burned out because we forget why we do it. It's purpose that keeps us fresh. And sometimes you've got to press pause to be like, what made me get into this field that I'm in the first place? How do I press pause and reconnect back into that? Something else I want to share, I got this from a book called Storyworthy. It's called the Storyworthy Moment of the Day. I do this every day, or try to every day. Some days I miss. I'll just write down usually just a couple sentences. What's the story-worthy moment worth remembering today? And it's funny, I'll go back through at the end of the month or end of the year, I would have forgotten 90% of the things I wrote down. But what's the things that's worth cherishing? And I just want to read two from recent years, if it's okay with you all. This one's from May 29th, a couple years ago. Lost my sunglasses. They were Ray-Ban, so it was a painful day. It became a discussion topic in the hospital room with Pawpaw. Dad's iconic line, what are the chances, came up, and Pawpaw laughed so much he started coughing. Hadn't heard him laugh that way in a while. Maybe it was his last big laugh. It's worth the $200 to lose sunglasses to hear that laugh one more time. March 31st. I was complaining about boarding a Spirit Airlines flight to Orlando. Can I get an amen? And I didn't have any issues vocally complaining about them when I was in line. But then I wondered how many people were on that flight because it's the only flight they could afford with their family, and a Spirit airline flight made it possible. To them, riding Spirit was a big freaking deal. Here I was complaining about it, privileged. It's the stories we tell ourselves that have the biggest influence on how we perceive the world. And when a bad moment happens, when something doesn't go your way, I'm not saying you have to, again, see it through rose-colored glasses, but what's something that's worth remembering? And sometimes it's funny. Like I was reading a book a couple weeks ago on a plane. I meant to order the book, The War of Art, and I accidentally ordered the book, The Art of War. And I was reading the book on the plane. I'm like, this is not the book I thought it was going to be. But again, I'm like, okay, that's my story-worthy moment of the day. So sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's playful, sometimes it's really serious. And what are those moments that you can capture? That life is going so fast, but you know what? I want to take hold of this. The longest pencil is better. The shortest pencil is better than the longest memory. What are the things that we can write down and cherish? Another thing, it's called the GLADS technique. It's been out in modern psychology for maybe a couple decades now. I expanded on it and put an S on it. I'll get to that in a minute. But a lot of days, I don't necessarily write this down, but I just got to go through it in my head. there's some days that are really stressful. So I'll go through, okay, what's one thing I'm grateful for today? What's one thing I learned today? What's one thing I accomplished? What's one thing I delighted in? And I added an S because one thing I also do is what made me scared today, but I pushed through it anyways. You tell me the last time you were uncomfortable, and I'll tell you the last time you grew. So sometimes, a little bit of anxiety, and be like, oh, this is the S moment of the day. I'm going to push through because this is going to grow me. Sometimes this can be a great perspective change and help us pause as well. So our last power up number 5, the power of relationships. This university, Harvard University, has done the longest study ever on human happiness. No other organization or university in the world has been able to replicate this. They started in 1938. It's still going today. Actually, President Kennedy was one of the first, was in that first group. Today, they're studying over 900 people. But this isn't your normal study of like, hey, fill out this email, let us know how happy you are. No, every year, they do brain scans on people. They do blood samples. They interview spouses, kids. It's 60 people still alive, around 60 in that initial group. They're in their 90s now. They have found one thing that has risen above across the board. They didn't have any bias when they went into this study, what they were going to find. But they found something so tangible, so unmistakable that the results hold true today. It wasn't how much people exercised that led to a happy and healthy life. Although, hey, exercise is good. It wasn't how healthy people ate, what their diet was like. Important, but that wasn't the number one factor. What they found was this. They found that good relationships keep us happier and healthier. That was the X factor, full stop. They said the people that were healthiest with their relationships at age 50 were also the healthiest with their bodies in their 80s. Like there was a tangible distinction between those being happy and healthy with their relationships in their 50s to their 80s. It's the number one X factor. They found 2 things. They said loneliness is toxic, which is pretty bold language for a research institution to lead with. And listen, there's a difference between being lonely and alone. Like sometimes, especially if you're an introvert, you need sometimes alone. That's not bad. But when you're lonely is when you don't feel like there's anybody in your corner. So if there's nobody in your corner, how do you create that? Maybe you get involved with a service volunteer organization. Maybe you get involved with your local church. Maybe you get involved with, organizations like this, the Chamber of Commerce, where you can meet other people. How can you build a tribe of people that are in your corner? Second thing they found was it's not about quantity, but quality. You don't need to be Mr. or Miss Popular, but do you have a few good people that you can rely on? Relationships are the X factor. It's not just true in our personal lives, it's true in our businesses. Business is people. That's what it comes down to. It's people in this room. It's the people in our communities. It's how we rise together as Cedar Hill. It's by joining forces and being like, hey, you know what? Yeah, maybe out there in the real world, sometimes we're competing against each other, but together, we rise together. We move forward together, even in disruptive times, uncertain times. What's going to happen in our world? Where are we moving to? You know what? We're going to do it together. Relationships are the X factor. Now, you might say, Nolan, there's some tough people out there. Or as Kendria would say, there's some conflict out there, which is true. I want to kind of flash back to this clip of 10 years ago, 2015 ACC tournament in Greensboro, North Carolina. There's this guy that's shooting for $1 million.
Scott, when you are ready, take your shot for $1 million.
The worst half-court shot I've ever seen. Like, just to the free throw line, really? It gets worse. This guy knew months in advance he was going to make this shot. It wasn't like, hey, come down from the stands and try to make it. He knew months in advance. Like, what the heck? Turns out, somebody videoed this clip, puts it on social media. I would have done the same thing. This is the worst half-court shot I've ever seen. Turns out there's a little bit more to the story, though. This guy's name is Scott Park. He had been diagnosed with CAPS disease years prior, and he was taking 39 pills a day. For 6 years, he was traveling round trip to Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore every other Friday. He gets a call from the ACC saying, hey, you won this sweepstakes to try and make a half-court shot for $1 million. And his idol growing up was NC State's coach, Jim Valvano, and his quote was, don't give up, don't ever give up. He finds out he earned an opportunity to try to make the shot, and he's like, there's no way I'm going to make it, but this is going to get me out of my house, get me to the local playground. This is going to be great. He's a hero for attempting that shot, but it's not up to him to be like, hey, give me the microphone. Hey, guys, I got this disease. Please take it easy on me. No, it's up to people like me to be like, I wonder if there's more to the story here. Everybody's fighting a battle you know nothing about. And when things don't quite line up, like, that's a little off there. Is there a question I could have asked to maybe get a little bit more about the story? Or if they didn't want to share, that's okay. But not taking everything for face value, that there's something deeper going on. We're just seeing, to put in like iceberg lens, we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that we can't see. Another thing is the Miracle on the Hudson plane. You know, Sully, that popular movie with Tom Hanks several years ago. This plane is actually in Charlotte. It's in the Aviation Museum because this plane, U.S. Airways, was on its way to Charlotte, North Carolina. Everybody knows the story. Nobody dies. Absolute miracle. So the plane is in Charlotte in this airport hangar. So one could say it finally made it to Charlotte, just maybe a little bit delayed. But you can go up to the plane. I've been there several times. It's obliterated. You wonder how in the world did this plane land with no casualties. And because it's in Charlotte, a lot of survivors live in the Charlotte area. When I was there visiting, there was somebody there that was on the plane. He was staying off to the side. I walk up and ask the question that probably 3,000 people had asked, what was it like being on that plane? His answer changed the way I look at leadership. He said, it depended on where you sat. He said, if you sat in the front of the plane, those passengers would say they've had worse landings on land than water. He said, as you move farther back, it got worse and worse. Of course, the front of the plane with first class feels it the least. Like, that's the way it works, right? The middle of the plane, you really felt it. The back of the plane, you thought you were going to die. I looked at the Miracle on the Hudson. I was at my grandma's house when it happened, and I was watching on TV. I thought everybody felt it the same way. But when you look a little bit closer, everybody felt it a little bit differently. So sometimes when we're leading teams, whether people are reporting to us, we're all leaders in some sort of way. We might think everybody's feeling a crisis the same way, but they're not. Sometimes as leaders, we got to figure out, what seat number am I in? What row number am I in? Because I might be in row 12, and there's 20 more rows behind me. Just because I'm not feeling it doesn't mean that there's not other people on the team that's also not feeling it. So how do we lead in a way that know that, hey, everybody's going to feel things a different way? And that should change how we treat people. And really what it comes down to is, how do we have conversations with people? How do we build that relationship? You know, when we talk about workers, I want to give you two examples. The guy in the red apron here in Starbucks, the guy in the red, his name is Matt. And the guy in the green, his name is Jim. The guy in the green, they're both great workers. Jim, he wants to work for Starbucks corporate. He wants to move up the ladder. He wants to become a general manager. That drives him forward. Matt, the guy in red, he loves his job. He likes it. But he loves that it allows him to work the early shift to pick up his kid from school at 3 o'clock. Both different motivations, but same high-performing workers. So when we think about the term dream job, sometimes for some people, their job is their dream. It fits hand in glove. And for other people, their job enables them to live their dream. So sometimes just having the conversation with people of like, hey, what's motivating you? It's okay if it's not 100% work. I will tell you now, with the changing dynamics of the generation that we're in, Gen Z and millennials, just a little over 50% of people have some type of side hustle. Whether they're selling something at the farmer's market on the weekends, whether they're a part-time social media influencer, people have motivations beyond what you do at work. And that's okay. that's something you can actually lean into. Like, what if your next performance evaluation, you ask, hey, I want one goal that has nothing to do with work. I just want to know what's important to you and how can I encourage you with that? Because I guarantee if people feel encouraged outside of what they're doing at work, that you're going to win the battle of staff retention. They might not stay there forever, but I bet you they'll stay there a lot longer than the national average because most businesses don't look at the total person that way. Another way to put it that really opened my eyes was a couple years ago, I was in Sweden, and it was like this cheap weekend flight, and I'm like, oh, let's go. And I love doing walking tours. I actually did a walking tour yesterday of the Fort Worth stockyards. I love learning history. I'm on this walking tour in Sweden, and the tour guide, it's maybe like 30 people, and everybody's from like all over the world. The tour guide's like, yeah, we have this thing in Sweden called fika. It's F-I-K-A. And basically what we do is we get coffee or pastry with a friend for like 15 or 30 minutes, and we do it twice a day. We do in the morning, we do in the afternoon. And I'm thinking, I'm like, in America, this would not fly because this would be seen as unproductive. Like, what are we doing? But then I look up the world happiness rankings. The new edition just came out this May. You know what Sweden was ranked? Number 4. The other countries were like the countries around them, the Nordic countries like Denmark, Norway, all cold weather countries. Very opposite of what you kind of initially think it would be. They leverage relationships so well. You know what America was? 24. It was the lowest ranking America has ever gotten in the history of the Global Happiness Report. I think there's something we can learn from things like this. I came back from that walking tour, and one of the organizations I was working with, I said, we're going to do this in the office. It was totally optional. People signed up. We put names in 2 different bowls. We went around the office, people drew names, and that was their fika partner for the month, where once a month you just get coffee and just chat about non-work stuff. Because relationships are the rising tide that lifts all boats. Relationships are the X factor. And I think, when we were talking about AI earlier and how that can kind of freak us out a little bit, I love AI. It's really helpful. It also scares me a little bit too. But sometimes it's reframing how you see things. So like, for example, I don't know how many of you all like doing expense reports. I hate doing expense reports. So one could say, we're afraid of our jobs being taken over by robots. But one could say when I'm doing expense reports on my computer, I'm like acting like a robot. So actually the AI will allow me to be a little bit more human because I can finally let the automated stuff be the automated stuff. So as we think of our jobs that way, what are the new things that are going to come about? What if we used AI in a way that when we shaved off some bandwidth, we actually doubled down on relationships, and that can be a really turn in the positive direction. I love this quote by Winston Churchill when it comes to courage. He said, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen." A lot of times as leaders, we think we need to have all the answers. I think the best leaders ask very good questions. And it's our ability to listen. Listen, what are our teammates saying? What are our customers saying? If we get really good at asking good questions, we'll kind of figure out where we need to be. It's a lot of times it's our preconceived notions of what the answers are that can get us into trouble. Before we do our last closing story, you can go to that QR code. There's slides from all of this today. There's a 1-pager document that you could print out that can help you, remind you to do the GLADS exercise, the story-worthy exercise. I know we went really fast-paced, so I kind of make that resource so you can, have it all in one spot. My email address is on that website too, so feel free to reach out if you want to learn more about, something we talked about today. Happy to send any resources your way as you kind of go on this journey. And we were talking about Winston Churchill there. I want our last story to be a special guest. We're going to stay in Europe. It's not going to be Winston Churchill that's going to help close us out. It's going to be a different type of European guest with American ties. Here's none other than Ted Lasso.
All we need to win are the fellas in this room right now. And all you fellas need to do is believe it.
It's a sign.
That's the way to.
No, hold on. Hey, knock it off, okay? We're not doomed. No one is doomed. But bumper catch, yes, you're right. It is a sign. I agree. Yeah. Fact is, it's just a sign. All right, guys, listen to me. Belief doesn't just happen because you hang something up on a wall. All right? It comes from in here, you know? And up here, down here. Only problem is we all got so much junk floating through us, a lot of times we end up getting in our own way. You know, crap like envy or fear, shame. I don't want to mess around with that anymore. You know what I mean? Do you?
No, Coach.
No. Do you?
No.
No, me neither. Hell no. Now, you know what I want to mess around with? The belief that I matter, you know? Regardless of what I do or don't achieve. Or the belief that we all deserve to be loved. Whether we've been hurt, or maybe we've hurt somebody else. Or what about the belief of hope? Yeah? That's what I want to mess with. Believing that things can get better, that I can get better, that we will get better. Oh, man. To believe in yourself, to believe in one another, man, that's fundamental to being alive. And look, hey, if you can do that, if each of you can truly do that, can't nobody rip that apart. See y'all Monday?
Yes. So as we conclude our time together, what are you believing for today? What are we, as the business leaders of Cedar Hill, believing for today? We're believing that, hey, we need to make sure we're firing at the things that matter, that we're not going to have success at the wrong targets, that we can double down on influence, innovation, and people, that the headwinds and challenges in our lives, they don't have to weigh us down. We can utilize them in a way that they lift us higher, that we can take joy in the journey, that joy isn't an output, it's an input. We start with joy first. We build peaks and moments in our day, both personally and for our teams collectively. We elevate moments. And when moments don't go our way, we build a lid. We put a day-tight compartment so that one bad moment doesn't flood the whole day. We find ways to press pause, whether it's doing the GLADS exercise, doing the story-worthy moment of the day. How can we capture the beauty, the people, the joy all around us? And then how do we leverage relationships and know that it's the X factor? And that we should be looking at everything through a prism of how do we create community and know that we're not in this battle alone. And I think when we look at those 5 things, we can look at a future that doesn't make us scared. We can look at the future not as something that makes us scared, but something that makes us energized to know that we can create really good opportunity, both for our businesses and for ourselves and the people we get to influence as well. So it's been a joy to be with you all. And on that note, I will turn it back over to our amazing on-air stage host.